Welcome.
Oh my gosh, you got little nice mics. Good for you.
There, no, it doesn't. You got a little nice mic too.
It's fine. It's
there you go. Hey, but you know what? It's maybe I should save this for. I'll say it again for the actual recording. Just. It's fun that you dove into this sort of, I don't know if this felt like sort of random or just like why, like this movie they're throwing at me or whatever. But I kind of felt that way about Dolly Parton a little bit. So like in a good way, because I never really listened to her. So I hope at the very least there is that refreshing element of just, oh, this was something I wouldn't have normally sat down and consumed. Like, absolutely.
I'm very glad I ended up watching this.
I love that. Good. Yeah. That's really all that matters at the end of the day. So
like that's very gratifying.
That's my little Saturday school.
That's the gratifying shit that like I need to hear.
After school special.
Yeah. This enriched my life. I forgave my father.
Wonderful. Well, that's an interesting effect. We can no.
Yeah, I didn't think about my dad at all. Andrew, how you doing?
I've been not great. I've been at work all day, and I've been like kind of crammed in my little home office, and I haven't been outside, and I've been mostly consuming podcasts and music and TV. I've binged all of Ted Lasso. I guess the thing I really need is a breath of fresh movie,
Why aren't we doing that more creatively every week? Like,
let's expand on it.
So you just raised the bar, good sir.
Thank
That
you.
was dope.
Thank
That
you.
was some serious yes and shit right there.
That was fucking great.
Yes, and you're welcome.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
This is great.
So this is a Breath of Fresh Movie. This is a podcast where me, Victoria,
and me, Chelsea,
and we this week an extra guest, Andrew. Do you like Andrew Ambrose Lee?
Yes.
Andrew
Ambrose Lee works.
Okay.
You know, it's so funny because that is a question that like usually people ask before the podcast. Like, how do you like to have your name said?
Oh, sometimes I'm like, I do like when sometimes I introduce the show and like I don't ask them like how you'd like to be introduced. So I'm like, you might know her from a Breath of Fresh Movie. It's how do you pronounce your last name? It's like kind of like
in the moment.
I think that's like so like relatable. Like I think that's totally fine.
I mean,
like,
I was looking at the name on your Zoom like square. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember in high school I made a Facebook group called Andrew Ambrose Lee's Only.
Oh my god.
And like a bunch of people who were not like named Andrew Ambrose Lee joined to like kind of like it was like 6 people, and
it was a bit. It was a really good committed bit.
Like
no, it was not a bit. I was lonely. I was.
Oh no!
But that's what bits bring us together. Bits bring us together.
Yeah. Which is why I'm trying to pursue a career in being funny.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, nobody who does comedy is lonely.
Yeah, I'm well adjusted. Anyways, hello, I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, every week we choose a movie that we've never seen before, and we watch it and we talk about it, and that's pretty much it.
Sounds familiar.
That's the dealio.
That's the thing.
100%.
This week we watched The Changeling, but not to be confused with Changeling.
Oh my god, which is so rude of you, Clint Eastwood. By the way. Like what a dick move.
Clint Eastwood was like, drop the it's cleaner.
That was him,
like,
right?
I think so.
Was it his movie?
It was definitely, I mean, Angelina Jolie was in it.
It's not her fault that the title was annoying like that. Yeah. But it is the identifier of the movie.
You
is
have
more
to
her.
put the in there if you're going to Google this one. The Changeling from the year 1980. Which was directed by Peter Medak. And it's basically about a composer who suffers a tragedy. His wife and daughter are killed in an accident.
It is Clint Eastwood, Changeling, by the way. I'm so sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to make sure I was not like going off on like
I'm glad
on him for no.
I'm glad we covered it. But anyway, this guy loses his wife and daughter in a horrible accident, and then moves to Seattle into a creepy old house where shit starts getting creepier by the moment. And then he decides he's going to get to the bottom of it. And that's
the rent is $500 a month for
Oh my God.
This is our movie.
I'd do it for 500. Yeah. I'd do it. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Man.
I was just thinking, no, we'll
the landlord won't fix this weird, creepy ghost child in the bathtub. But like, other than that, pretty nice.
I don't know. There's a lot of broken shit in my apartment right now, and I'm paying twice that. That's all. Anyway.
Did they actually say $500 at some point?
No, I just made that.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
wow.
I don't remember. I was going to say, I watched this twice and I didn't remember that. And I was like, damn.
Wow.
Andrew's just making up stuff.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, fake news. Sorry.
I mean, it's fake news. Oh my God.
I mean, like, first impressions before we get into anything. Like, what did... I'll just go first.
Yeah, do it.
Because when I ask a question, I'm asking myself and nobody else.
It's cool. It's very teacher energy.
God.
It's like, for example. Like,
I mean, I'm just thinking about, speaking of teachers, this movie in the first 5 minutes when the credits are rolling and, he's walking past Lincoln Center and all that shit. I was like, this feels like a movie my English teacher would have shown us. She would have wheeled out like a TV on a cart. To like, I don't know why, but just as like some example of storytelling. I mean, I literally had an English teacher in middle school show us that scene from Jaws where Robert Shaw talks about, lo, his eyes are like black like a doll's eyes. Yeah, exactly. It's like an example of storytelling. Because, English teachers got to get creative and kids are into movies and their TikToks,
No, so. Straight up, you know what? My high school junior English teacher, he showed the vomiting scene from Family Guy. The scene where all the characters are all vomiting. It just feels like it's going on ad infinitum. It's just going on for a really long beat. I don't remember what he was teaching, but he was teaching something and he showed us that scene.
Oh my God.
And I just, and I remembered having that feeling of like, he goes there. He's going to go there with us. That's just the power of teaching.
It's the power of like a teacher being a little hungover, like, oh, I don't want to teach today.
Yeah. No, honestly, I was taught by a lot of videos, especially in history classes.
It's very just like, I rest my case. Like, it's just like,
we watched a lot of A&E biographies. Like they would get the 40-minute tape. And play that for us instead of teach. Definitely. Like hand out a worksheet.
I loved video days.
No, everyone did. Everyone did.
Like the lights out, I'd focus the hell on that thing. And then I answer everything right because I was having a good time. I like watching TV.
Like I love being taught by TV. Well, that's what this felt like to me for some reason. There was something about those credits. It was like one of those movies that, would just be, I just feel like English teachers would sometimes show something weird and obscure and they would justify it and like it would get rubber stamped by somebody and, it's curriculum, so that's what this movie felt like to me. Just on
in like middle school, I was shown Back to the Future in my like biology class, and like someone had to go, like the teacher's probably like, look, it's a flux capacitor. Okay.
Biology? Like what?
I don't know.
What a stretch.
Science. He does the science.
He's a scientist. Obviously, when you like drive a DeLorean 88 miles an hour, it goes back in time. We all like
exactly.
Kids need to know. Like
that wouldn't happen if there wasn't life biology done. All right. Your move principle.
Yeah.
Also, like the mom and dad had to conceive Marty McFly and bring him out into the world. So that's biology related too. So
this was a movie that I was encouraged to pick this because, and yes, I did pick this because it's considered Martin Scorsese considers this one of the scariest movies ever. Steven Spielberg,
Short King.
Yeah. Steven Spielberg used to show that, like he showed this to the cast of the crew that were making Poltergeist, like as like an emphasis of like, I want this movie to feel like Changeling. Like he wanted that to be like the tonal baseline. There's just a lot of like horror and suspense and filmmakers who really love this movie, but it definitely has problems. Like, and we were chatting a little bit before, and like
you weren't there.
You weren't there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's something about our main character, John Russell, who he's very capable, right? Did you ever worry about him?
How did you feel about this? Oh, did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. It was like pretty spooky. It was like, I think like I lost interest towards the second half when it was kind of revealed like, oh, it's a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top. I kind of lost it. But like when it was like a psychological horror, oh, he's like seeing his kid in like the visage of like the mirror and stuff like that. And like, I thought it was like, and maybe it was going to be like something about like inherited, like, you know, trauma, like both people like kind of lost their kids and stuff like that. I thought it was gonna
you thought it was gonna tie together,
right? And then like and like I thought this would be a way for him to like kind of work through his grief of like the sudden and tragic and random mundane loss, basically. Like just like
mundane loss.
It's mundane in that it's like it's not like a, because it's like in Hereditary or like Midsommar, those guys like die horribly. Like this feels very. This could happen in real life. Like
I totally get that. I just think it's funny saying this is mundane. Mundane, just implying this is what.
Tragic but mundane.
How blasé.
It's like they were killed waiting for a
bus, whatever.
That was quite a crash.
Yeah, definitely the filmmaking and the atmosphere created is really, really incredible. I thought that was the part that I could totally see how people were influenced by this and like how like it kind of changed the game, and also like how people try to imitate this but not quite get it, like not quite use this much restraint and not use this, but like I don't know, like you guys seem to not like it as much.
I mean I like it a lot, actually. I mean
Victoria loved it. I came in here and I poisoned the well is what happened.
No. I didn't love it necessarily.
No, it's okay though that you did. I feel like I came in and it was a stinker.
It was like, it's not as good. There's a lot of movies that have like this haunted house thing, right? And like there's a lot of movies that have a music box. And there's there's all kinds of shit that this isn't the first movie to do that. Sure. And, these things definitely feel, okay, it's this. What I did think was really interesting was I did a little bit of research and found out this was based on like somebody's real experience though.
Wow.
Which is nuts. Like so hang on, I got the details here. Based on the true story of Russell Hunter, who I couldn't figure out if they were a playwright or a composer. It was kind of unclear. I think somebody watched the movie and got confused. But they were living at the Henry Treat Rogers Mansion in Denver, Colorado. And he found a century-old journal in a hidden room detailing the life of a disabled boy who was kept in isolation by his parents. And then he held a seance, and this boy directed him to like another house to go like dig, where they found human remains and a fucking medallion.
Jeez Louise.
So all of that really happened.
That's like 2/3 of the movie. That
I know.
Like, obviously, not like things breaking or whatever, but like like
that's a very detailed. Yeah, like it's a very in that case, it's like I commend it for its loyalty. I do feel that it's a huge personally, I feel it's like a huge tonal miss to not better examine it as more of like a murder mystery as opposed to it being. I get that there were supernatural elements that happened, but I think.
But it was muddy. You're right. It started as like a supernatural horror, and then it kind of becomes a murder mystery.
It seems as though that's going to be the case, and because it starts with just like wind howling, and it's black with the red lettering for the opening titles, and then it cuts to it's him and his family pushing this car through the snow, and then they die, and so you get this impression that there's going to be some. Like it's gonna come at you hard and fast, and it doesn't do that. But what it does do is start presenting this mystery that George C. Scott, the capable man that he is ready to solve and has nothing to lose. So he does it. It's
true.
And then the house just burns up, but then the wheelchair and the music box make it like, oh, he's still hanging. I guess he didn't get what he wanted. Like,
I think it's like kind of like my unfinished business is kind of finished. Now I can like enjoy this lullaby. Like maybe the little kid is like that because
I like that. I like that interpretation a lot. I do. That does. There is something very optimistic about that, which I almost feel like, again, I'm like, well, then maybe lean into that. I don't know.
Well, I think the fire was the end, but yeah, then there's still that like little
I would have
music
preferred,
box scene. And then you brought up something too about how like at the end,
I wasn't there.
I know. No, at the end, the senator has this like psychic connection, right, with the baptism medallion, and suddenly he's in the house, right, and he's like walking up the stairs, and George C. Scott sees him. He's back in the house psychically, but he's physically there too.
He's somehow in two places at once, because they're justifying his physical presence with George C. Scott seeing him, but he's also having this seemingly heart attack in his office.
Yeah.
Then when he dies, the ambulance and whatnot are showing up at his office place, but then George C. Scott and the lady are there and not at the house that's burning down.
Yeah.
Which is another
like it's called there, like, because like you're the last person to see the senator or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
but he's just like, but they happen to just
suddenly there.
Be there.
Yeah, that is like,
it's a little muddy. I mean,
it was like editing probably.
I'm spoiled from seeing too many other movies that are better at at understanding that horror movies are just as much a logistical problem solver as they are an artistic endeavor. Like there are these elements that you need to address. It pulls away because you want to tap into someone's emotional space. You want to make them fearful, this and that. But if they're too caught up in those kinds of like, this movie was it would have been on the money if it was a suspense, if it was a supernatural thriller or something, like something more in that vein as opposed to a horror film. But not everybody else maybe watches horror movies with that same feeling. There's a little bit of a sadomasochistic kind of energy when you're going into watching horror film. You want this to...
I want to piss my pants.
To be scary. I want to feel scared at some point. Maybe
a few scary scenes.
There was pretty spooky.
I mean, the seance was creepy. Like the woman,
that was the best scene.
Drawing and writing, that was fucking. I got a little creeped out, and then him listening to the tape as he's like smoking and listening and playing it back, and he keeps hearing, Joseph. Like, all that whispering shit.
Wait, hold on. I'm getting a premonition. Ba Booey. Oh, it's just like
oh my god.
It's just a prankster ghost.
See, but that's the thing is I appreciate that some of those scenes were more effective. Like I'm watching it and it felt very campy to me.
A little bit.
But I'm not. That is not to say that you're not valid.
I think I'm just
correct in your feelings about it.
Thank you. I mean, I'm just a sucker for a reel-to-reel scene. I did think it was really funny though how like he's listening to this tape. First of all, I wouldn't stay in this house. Would you stay in this house? No. Okay, right.
He was never scared. Like that's the crux of my issue. He was never scared.
It's so true because he listens back to this tape and he confirms basically that there's like a ghost of a little boy here, and then it's like, well, I'm off to bed. Like he just like
he is so unafraid. Even all the way up to the very end, even as the house is burning down, he's like, Joseph, no, like, hey, like,
what do you want?
No,
well, it's also like kind of like it's kind of upsetting that like the ghost can like also show up in that little girl's house too, so it's like the ghost can move around and stuff.
That's true, because remember he throws away the red ball off the fucking bridge and then he gets home and like
I want to talk about like rules there, the importance of setting up rules and following them. And I think
I love how disappointed you are with it.
I just feel like it's one thing if the spirit is just this malevolent, unending thing, which I feel like movies like The Ring or The Grudge do a better job handling, because they are the only bottom line is that this is a malevolent force that cannot be destroyed. So no matter how much you're getting your hopes up, you're intentionally setting yourself up for that failure when you're watching. Like there's something like poetic about that to me, that I feel like it's like versus a horror figure or something that seems to be looking for some kind of closure, but it's not tied down to the house. It can go wherever it wants. It doesn't seem to even be satisfied by the end. It's
never satisfied. That's
never satisfied,
sure.
But it's also, what is the intention? That just to kind of spook out this one guy, but with
I think the ghost just hated the historical society and wanted to fuck up their house. Like,
there you go.
Well, I think it was like the ghost, like Joseph wanted John Russell, like to help him avenge like him in a way, like, but like it's like it's also like, but like the alternate version son isn't the evil one, it's the dad who like killed him and stuff like that.
Like, you're right, like the changeling, right, the boy, the 6-year-old boy who grew up to be the senator. It's not his fault, and he doesn't know any of this. Not your fault. It's like a horrifying revelation for him to discover that his father is a murderer.
That's also like, just it doesn't measure up.
It just causes more pain. Like there's no nothing is restored in a balanced sense. That's definitely off.
And it could have been cool for like John Russell to kind of learn something from that. Like maybe I should, like off of his grief and stuff like that. But I don't, it doesn't, it's not really, it stops being about
the significance of
the loss,
having a personal loss, and for a protagonist in a horror film, and just how you feel that whether that's necessary for you to identify with the character, if that is necessary, whether or not you felt that was effective in this film.
To me, I thought the first hour and like the first 20 minutes or so, we see of this guy just dealing with his sadness and like little things happening, like a door closes and like something's a little off. Like that's like some of the most effective. First of all, it just like makes you really feel for this guy. Just like, he's a good guy. Like he loves his family. Like his family's very idyllic and like almost too perfect, but like, it's like Mexico next time, Hawaii better. Like,
it was extremely campy, that scene. It was so campy the way it was written.
He's probably past the point of pounding his fists on the floor, like screaming, like doing this, animalistic kind of grief. And just like, now I just have to like not to go on with my silly little life, now I have to like do, like, I'm a teacher. Like you if you look at the guy, if you like just like an outside observer, like watching his life, you probably don't know that is like his wife and child died in this horrific thing. Like, he's masking it pretty well. He's charming. He's a good teacher. His students like him.
He's very capable. He's a very capable guy, and we don't ever see any real weaknesses here.
But then he just has to. Then he goes home to his like lonely house, like, and
he
just like does
like
his
the biggest loneliest house to rattle around in,
and it's just like you see his life outside of like his home, and it's just like a regular normal guy life, and then he goes home and he has nobody. He just like has his music and like a big old house that's kind of like amplifies how alone he is, and like that's really that makes you really feel for him. So I thought the movie was going to be about him maybe not getting over it, but coming to some sort of conclusion or some sort of revelation about like how to live and stuff like that, like, but
how to live with grief. For all the setup of this, the importance of this character's interiority, we never really get any more of it beyond.
No, it's totally true. I mean, even like, I'm sorry, there was a moment where like a mirror shatters and a little piece goes into his neck,
but there's no stake.
But he just like pulls it out like it's nothing.
I think he's like been in that house for a few months, and like he kind of knows the ghost.
It really doesn't even faze him. No, truly, because right after that moment, he goes to bed.
Yeah,
he doesn't do anything. He sees the guy that he just interacted with, and they're dead, and and the piece of the thing goes in this, and then he just goes to bed, which leads me to think this would have been a brilliant turn if this had been some sort of psychological spin in terms of it being. Now we've seen that a lot too. Like, it turns out he was the killer all along. I know we've seen that a lot too, but for this being at the time that came out, if it had been more of a turn of like.
In the first half of the movie, something spooky and eerie happens, and like there's like a spooky music, like whooshing
They start
wind
trying
sound.
to build it up, you know.
And then then it's like him like going off in his life, and just like the mystery is just felt like for something for him to do, something for him to like occupy his time, like do.
Truly. I'm like, oh, is that what it is? Like he could have just done a crossword puzzle. Like he just needed to solve a mystery to like get over his grief. He just needed fucking Sudoku.
Some men buy sports cars, some men solve cold cases.
That's what it, that's
dab is like denial, like anger, bargaining, what's it?
It's anger, denial, bargaining, acceptance. Grief is one of those.
Acceptance, and then murder mystery.
Murder mystery is the other one. Oh shit, that's the one. Yeah,
it's one of those. Question.
Sorry.
You find a secret room with a locked door inside your home. Do you break the lock off and go in like our hero, or do you just like turn around and get the fuck out of there?
Well, I don't like, if I to be honest, like I would not assume it's a ghost child or like it's filled with like spider webs and stuff like that. Like I'm just like, oh, like a new place to put my piano or something like that. Like,
I feel like
my keyboard.
I feel like that's a thing that happens also like in Rosemary's Baby when she like moves in and like there's a dresser that's like in front of a portal. That
The Conjuring has that element with the basement. Yeah,
there you go.
You know,
like
it's a
finding a secret room inside your house is frightening.
It really just depends on how well written is the movie that I am existing in. If I'm in a well-written movie, then obviously the stakes have been raised. This is the best house. This is my dream home. I'm in my dream community, my dream job, everything is so ideal, and I cannot afford to let go of this home. That, okay, fine, I'm going to open this and I'm going to confront whatever demons inside it. But if it's carpeted, I'll turn around. If it's not the perfect home, I'm not gonna fuck around with a demon. Not worth it. Especially if it's carpeted and there's no natural light. That's my opinion.
So like
Sorry, I'm done.
So like your apartment.
Yeah, if this was my own apartment and I found a locked room, I'd get the fuck out. Absolutely.
And I'm just saying, like, it's like.
But rent control though. Okay, but rent control though. See, okay, rent control's this like, place is the rent control.
I feel like the little secret room would to just get rented to someone, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not in old houses where I grew up, which is definitely coal country. I mean, I'm not from coal country, but like they use coal. Old houses will have like a coal room, which it's always like this tiny little door in a cellar that leads to like another room. But if you don't know what the hell coal room is, it just looks like a room you put a child in. Like it looks like scaled for that. Like just, so I don't know. I think finding something secret inside your house is gonna just like a huge creep factor to that.
If it's a seance or a possession, I'm always looking at the medium and going, what's the thing? Because I personally, I would love to play like a funny medium in some capacity. Like I would love to find a way to find the right and so I loved the idea that
the happy medium.
The happy medium. I love the idea that she was like looking out and talking. And she's never, but she has to constantly be scribbling, and there's no. And the paper just keeps pulling. Then I thought, oh, it'd be funny if I was the person who had to like read, because it's not her reading them. It's the guy next to her who has to pull them away and read them. I love the idea if it's like a person who's filling in or something. Like, okay, so I can't tell if this is a word or scribbles. I feel like this is part of it though. No, I can't. Okay.
New character.
Okay, well, this one definitely says Karen. This one definitely says Karen on it. But I don't know why, because no one here is named Karen, right? That's so weird. Like, but that's so
Someone just says blurg.
Yeah, I think, is this a word or is this a drawing? Word or drawing? She's still in it. Okay, so we'll put a pin on this one. Okay, I'm gonna make a pile of all the ones I don't get yet, and it's a little higher than the one I do get right now. But we're gonna get there together, you guys. Okay, I promise. All right. Okay, this is a stick figure. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Was it
a fun bit? I'll have to write that down.
That was, damn it, we need more act outs. The fun though of like getting into like a horror movie that's just like a little bit off the beaten path. Like this is not a movie I was aware of. Like I didn't, this isn't one that gets shown a lot. I don't, and it's interesting when you just start seeing like enough of these types of movies where like a lot of seance scenes. Yeah. So like if you did want to create a character like that, you end up referencing kind of all of them. I mean, we were talking about this last week because last week we recorded an episode about Only Lovers Left Alive, and we couldn't stop talking about What We Do in the Shadows because it just felt it was such a like universally encompassing thing.
Like they literally were made within like a year of each other. They're even referencing, one references the other and its own in it. And it's just, there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of like, it really lent itself to that. I feel like Roger Ebert better like articulated this, which is that this is a very technically well-made movie.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot of really effective shots. I absolutely loved, towards the end when we get into, I believe it was Nancy, right?
I think so.
Yeah, we go into her POV looking through. Then this happens actually a few times in the films where we're watching POV going through the home, which I don't think actually happened in a lot of other films apart from, I think the only other movie it made me think of initially was Evil Dead at the very end when it like
Evil Dead,
fast
Halloween
cut.
A little bit like
it does have tones of that for sure.
But I definitely think that those are definitely choices that I thoroughly enjoyed and so, and then when the stairs fell through, like I was like, oh, like technically the super great shot because that guy takes a step off, like the senator, he goes up, finishes his last step, and then it fought like that was, and I mean, that was well shot, that was well
even
timed.
The way the house like ignited was pretty like
that was cool.
That felt, I feel like I've seen that before. Just a quick note, this was directed by Peter Medak, who he was Hungarian, and I guess he fled during the uprising in 1956, and he went to Britain and started as like an assistant at British Picture Corporation, which sounds like exactly what a film studio would in Britain. He eventually, though, came over and started working for MCA and Universal Pictures. He was observing people like Alfred Hitchcock. He worked with people like Carol Reed and Anthony Asquith. He made his first feature in 1968. It was called Negatives. He made several other films, Day in the Death of Joe Egg, which is like bizarre but excellent. The Ruling Class, which I've never seen, but we were talking about. Maybe
that one looked interesting to me when I was doing research. I was like, I'll watch that.
And that got an Academy Award nomination. So, he's definitely had like the respect and attention of the industry. Changeling was in 1980. He also directed a lot of television episodes. Homicide, Law and Order, Cold Case, The Wire, Carnival, House, Breaking Bad,
more
Hannibal.
than competent for sure.
Yeah, and in fact, there's like a perception in Hollywood that like, oh, you're old, so you can't do this job. And he's like, when you're a filmmaker, being older is you're better at it. You understand more about life, etc. And he talks about, he's like, when I do TV, people can barely keep up with me. And I do have one quote here from Peter O'Toole, who worked with this director on The Ruling Class. He said, I've only ever worked once with any director. If I were to work with anyone again, it would only be with David Lean or the Hungarian refugee.
Oh my God, that's a brilliant quote.
Right.
I just wanted to share that, but that's our director, and he was the third director brought on to this film. I think like two other people like tried or failed or begged off it. So, I mean, he kind of came along and, when you talk about being technically a film that works, technically
just what a revelatory fucking like that quote, just the way it contextualizes so much too in terms of just his experience and trying to kind of just.
What about that old biddy at the historical society who's like, that house doesn't want people?
Oh my God, that was funny.
Or it's like not fit for people. What did she say? I think
it was something like it doesn't like want people.
Doesn't want
something
people.
like that, yeah.
But then like she's on the phone with the senator later, so I
think she was trying to like scare him, like and like try to be like.
Well, see,
that makes it seem like the
ties more into the tonal issue I'm talking about. See, that's more conspiratorial.
Now there's more questions.
More questions.
Like, did the senator know that?
No, yeah.
Because
that's so muddy. That's so muddy.
I feel like we're never getting to the bottom of this. Just like that well with the little hand and the little I did like the way that necklace medallion
so
thing,
cool.
like
yeah,
the way
it was a cool, like, was it like a reverse shot that they pulled that off?
Are so cool.
Yeah, they did do some great, again, like super technically well made. Like, it's just like, what a handicap for me of enjoying this film. Like, when the story just kind of falls short.
It's a hand,
you know? Like,
he's just not phased. He's just,
yeah, he's if anything, he just seems, he seems angry and disappointed. He's not like ever like, he's never scared. He gets upset. He never gets scared. He's just more like, and I there's a part of me that does, I think like there definitely can be a horror movie where there is just a grisly dude.
I think the strength of this movie is the atmosphere it creates, and like the set design, the lighting, the color composition, gorgeous. Like every frame feels like a painting. Every frame like kind of feels very intentional, and like the pacing is really, it's a slow burn, but like it never feels boring and never bore. I never felt bored watching it. I think it crescendos really nicely in terms of just like how slowly like he walks up the stairs and like he sees like the one faucet, then he walks up the second set of stairs, turns off a different faucet, and then he sees the kid in the bathtub and like it's like, is that so freak? That's like I was like,
but then he just like slowly backed out of that room. There's something about just, you remember that scene in The Sixth Sense where like Toni Collette like leaves the room and comes back and all the cabinet doors are open? Yeah, that's like more terrifying to me than, and like a faucet left on. Like if I kept finding faucets left on, I would freak the fuck out. Yeah, like that's all it would take. I think The
Sixth Sense is a perfect like kind of evolution of this movie a little bit in terms of like it being a ghost movie that ends up being like really Spielbergian, like sweet and sentimental at the end.
You're so right about that. As far as I mean, that really was part of what made Sixth Sense and M. Night Shyamalan coming into the scene just so refreshing, was that he seemed to have a real great understanding of this idea of balancing the mystery with the suspense and horror in a way where you're not feeling kind of you're not feeling gypped in either direction. You're getting like a healthy dose of both. And like, I'm sure he would probably reference The Changeling in some respect as inspiration. I'd be surprised if not. He seems like an encyclopedia of film.
Yeah, no, totally. I can see tones of that.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
I think for me, the real horror element is in the notion that like a wealthy person can kill their own child and get away with it.
That is horrifying.
Oh, the actual scene where like the dad kills his son, like that's like fucking disturbing.
Absolutely.
Like, again, like it goes back to like the beginning scene. You're like, oh, this could happen in real life, which is why it's so upsetting. Like
exactly, and like that, and that like if you have enough wealth that like, well, he didn't have a son, or no one remembers a child. Like you could just ice them out and get rid of. I mean, like that's like now,
especially in like the 1920s or 10s or so.
Exactly. No, because eugenics was like a popular ideology that was like starting to really take hold. And I mean, this is now like straight up acknowledged about the Lindbergh family and the Lindbergh baby, and like there's like theories that they hired the kidnappers to like get rid of the kid because the kid was in some way not perfect physically, or there was some kind of, it was anyway. People really like there's a lot of disturbing thinking around like disability and deformity. Anyway, it's
right,
and that darkness, that like kind of human, forget the supernatural stuff, but like that kind of
the horror movies I love, like Hereditary or Midsommar or Get Out or like Us, are kind of like they're kind of more about human nature being vile and evil and stuff. And that's like the horror manifests in like how like vile and like evil people are and stuff like that. Like, or like how like, racism is like kind of this evil thing and stuff like that.
I really like that you brought up Ari Aster and Jordan Peele in particular, because I think they're both horror filmmakers that are really keen on what happens. They are good about finding what is specifically horrifying to this psychological shortcoming or vulnerability in this part, like in terms of like grief in both Hereditary and Midsommar, but then at the same time, you know, you're dealing with the isolation of Midsommar and the prospect of being brought into, like, to how vulnerable and susceptible someone might be to any kind of cult or you know, extremely persuasive.
I actually have like another point. Like, I know
please.
this is
We're not.
This is one of your segments, like the ladies' room.
Oh yeah.
Again, like we said, it's just loose.
You guys can enter that ladies' room. I'll wait outside here.
Well, you know what's funny? It doesn't always come up. Sometimes it naturally comes up where we're like, this bothered me, or this gender dynamic. I don't really have any feels like in a gendered way.
Well, if we were in theory stepping into the ladies' room, which click, we're stepping into the ladies' room right now.
You guys need anything? You guys? I'll just wait out here. I'll play Angry Birds. I'll wait out here.
Watch my purse.
That's fine. To be fair, it didn't seem like there was any sort of examination on, like, this could have all very well have been all women, you know, and a girl drowned by their mother, and the woman taking over the house, and it being
You've sold me, though. I think we need to do a all female reboot of the Changeling.
No, please God, no.
And it'll be like a Dianne Feinstein type as the old senator.
I just think that'd be interesting. I think that would be cool.
I think we absolutely can greenlight this and get this going.
Sure, I guess
we'll fix all those squishy stuff.
Oh well, no.
I don't know. I love the idea of just like any kind.
What do you mean by when you say squishy stuff? What is that? What are you referring to?
Like, you know, like all the logical problems, you know, something
logistical issues.
That's like a thing that comes up sometimes in documentary production, when like somebody is like, well, you know, they state something like it's a fact, and you're like, that's a little squishy. I don't know if that's true. Like, and you gotta really make sure. You gotta go and check. Like, that's where it's spongy. You know, it's a little spongy.
Well, okay. Like, you know what though? Like, this is actually the point I wanted to bring up. That like springboards it really nicely. Is that in this movie, when George C. Scott says, yeah, I think there might be a ghost in the house or something like that, everyone is on board immediately. Yeah. Everyone is so like,
well, if you saw that house, I mean,
and like, you know, Miss Claire Norman is on board. She I'm so sorry I sold you this house, and but everyone is on board really quickly. And part of me found that to be like really refreshing. There's no scene where it's like, you're a crazy person. Are you sure you're not hallucinating?
That's true. That's true. Like, definitely credit should be given to the fact that they didn't get lost in pedantics, stuff like that.
There's a scene where George C. Scott is at whatever the University of Washington or whatever, like to hire out this like psychic, and they're standing in front of a door, and above the door it's a piece of paper taped to the wall that just says like psychic research.
Oh my god.
Like, someone just slapped that shit up real quick. Like, shit.
How will they know?
Who's got it? Yeah, exactly.
Shit.
Yeah, so the reason I led you into this, into the ladies' room, and I'm outside the ladies' room, is because like, if it was an all-woman cast, that would be a bigger problem. It'd be like like all the scientists would be like, or like all the like every man in the movie would be like, you're crazy, lady.
Oh, sure.
Like, you're
anticipating them interacting with
all
men.
That stuff. Yeah. But because he's a professor and he's like respected, everyone likes him. He's like, yeah.
And they're like, he wouldn't make that up. He's, you know, I mean, right. Because we don't believe women, right?
I do like that, like Claire and John, it's not a romantic thing.
Yeah.
Although like they were married in real life, you know, George C. Scott and Trish Van Devere. So like they had this really sweet chemistry. Like it was like really, there's this podcast called Blank Check. And David Rees, he's like a cartoonist and comedian, like a comedy writer and stuff like that. He went on the show and he said like movies are either puzzles or dreams, basically. It start like, and it's kind of like more like it doesn't all fit a dream movie is like, it doesn't all fit together, but it's just a vibe. It's just like, it's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be like kind of the feeling and kind of like, what does this make you feel? And like, I feel like the movie started that way. It started that way. And then it became a puzzle movie. And then it became like, you gotta solve this mystery, like Scooby in the game.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I think our minds were limber enough to have handled something sort of, more dreamlike. Yeah. It took a turn. It took a turn.
Yes.
I was just thinking about, I also kind of couldn't take seriously the like little boy voice,
Yeah.
Father.
I don't remember what you said.
I don't know.
Fuck.
It was a little, I wanted to drown him, I'm just joking. Oh, no. Oh, I'm going to get in such trouble for that.
No, you're good.
I feel like we all graded the same paper and like you're giving it like a C-. I
just feel like I'm the Simon Cowell right now tonight.
Yeah.
It's just, so be it.
Who are the other people in that lineup?
I'm the Paula.
You're Paula and Randy.
I give it like
I'm Randy Jackson. Okay, awesome.
This ain't it.
That's going to be a no for me, dog.
That's going to be a no for me, dog.
I gave it like 4.5 on Letterboxd. By the way, follow me on Letterboxd. I'm fun.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, I totally will.
Excellent sound design. Excellent. Set design. Like the set design and color scheme and stuff. Like kind of reminds me of like proto Wes Anderson and like how beautiful like the color scheme is and like how deliberate it all felt and stuff like that. Like typically it's like a drab, like there's a lot of like browns and grays and stuff like that whenever we're outside or whenever like we're in like kind of like nature and like you see like the green trees and like the blue sky and stuff like that. They just really pop. And like that red ball at one point, like just like the coloring on that is really impressive. I like colors, you guys. I think it's like, George C. Scott is great. Like how pink his face turned out. It turned out to be like another like set design thing. Like,
it gets really inflamed.
He's great. It doesn't stick the landing for me, but I really enjoyed the atmosphere and if I kind of take the dream like aspects of it and like focusing on them, I think it's really great. So that's my take on the movie.
Are you like a big Halloween movie person? Like, is this a good time?
I'm growing. I'm definitely like, I was not a horror guy early on, but like with like movies that are really scary to me, it's more so that like, I'm glad I watched it instead of like, I like that. I like instead of sometimes of like liking watching movies, because Midsommar was like one I hated the first time I watched it, and then watching it again and looking back, I'm like, this is an excellent movie. This is like so, and like kind of like, oh, it's like this is a hilarious movie. Like it's really funny.
It's a dark comedy is how I think feel.
Like a lot of really good horror movies tread that line.
Not to like harp on it too much, but like Jordan Peele starting off as a comedian and then transitioning to horror makes so much sense because it's knowing when to like release and like pull back and make them laugh and then like kind of like use that as a false sense of security and stuff like that.
Tension.
Really smart.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Thanks very much for being part of this.
This is so fun.
People should check out Andrew's podcast. I've been meaning to listen to that. IBM TLTT.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
that's great.
On Facebook and Instagram, and Twitter, you can find at IBMTLTT. I've been meaning to listen to that.
IBMTLTE.
It sounds
TT.
Okay, so if you were to make a sandwich of like all these, like, is iceberg lettuce, banana, mayonnaise.
Why not bacon? Why is it gotta be bananas? It could have been bacon.
Nope, bananas.
Oh no.
Mayonnaise, tomato. Wait, IBM.
Yeah, he said I for iceberg lettuce. So it's L. So the L needs to be not lettuce. It can be
regular lettuce.
Sure. It could be just like
so iceberg lettuce and then like romaine and like it's implied.
It's a green lettuce of some kind now. It's just a regular green lettuce. It could be bib lettuce, and then now it's two more T's
like tuna and turkey. Or did we already say turkey?
Oh wait, okay. So iceberg lettuce,
turmeric,
bacon,
and tofu,
mayo, turkey, lettuce, regular lettuce, tuna,
tomato. Did you say tomato?
So iceberg lettuce.
We're gonna get fired.
This is really important. This is really important, you guys. Okay.
No, let's get this.
Iceberg lettuce, bacon, mayo, tomato, lettuce again, turkey, tuna. There it is.
Wow,
so. That's a big sandwich.
A lot on that sandwich.
Yeah, it's like if you go to Jimmy John's, it's like number 17 or something like that.
Oh, okay. So,
it's a really great show. I'm very proud of it. We would love more listeners. Music we've been meaning to listen to, and using that music as a means to learn about our guests and each other, and like kind of really it gets silly, but it also gets deep. It gets introspective and stuff like that. We really try to do that. And we had a Dolly month recently. We had like an entire month on Dolly Parton. We had the lovely Chelsea Pope on.
Yes, that was very fun.
To talk about New Harvest ... First Gatherings.
Yes, that was delightful.
Or whatever it's called. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think I was right.
Yeah, we did like Kanye month. We had like guests like Kevin Porter and Carl Tart, and it's like a really, really, really wonderful show. I'm very proud of it. Check that out.
Yeah, guys, check out his podcast.
Woo. Yeah,
no, it's great, it's lovely to know that there's like another similarly like you have a similar mission statement. You know, we're all just trying new stuff. That could have been us.
Yeah.
Thanks again so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks again, dude. This was great.
Thanks for listening to A Breath of Fresh Movie. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FreshMoviePod, or you can send us an email at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com.